Today we have this 100 series Landcruiser and it is in for a full major service on the engine, and we are doing a transmission service as well. And in case you didn't know, these usually have the 4-speed, the A442 automatic transmission in, but this one has the 5-speed A750F, which is similar to what was in that Isuzu that I did the video on how to service it. They're nice and simple, and if you own one of these 5-speeds, I'm going to show you now how to service them and what to look for. So let's get into it. So if you crawl under the car, that is your transmission pan. So we will start by draining it. You have your 14mm drain plug, you have a 5mm Allen key plug. Just crack that one for now, but leave it in. Obviously use that to drain it, and then you have, once it stops draining, put your plug back in it and then take out all of the 10mm around and take the pan off the auto. And also on this type of A750, it does not have a dipstick to fill from. You have two fill points here though. You'll have a T50 Torx bit going down here, or you have a 24mm plug just up there. You can undo either of them, doesn't matter which one. I personally like to go with the 24mm plug just because it's a bit easier to get to, but either will be fine. Right, once that's basically out of drip, put your plug back in and tighten it up, and then undo your pan bolts. That way you don't have something dripping on your arm as you are undoing all these bolts. Right, I've just taken the pan down. There will obviously be a little bit of excess oil in here. Just make sure you drop it down square and then tip it into your bucket. That is your filter that we will be replacing, and that is your valve body solenoid. So because you've got your drain plug back in the pan, you can put that aside for a second. And we're going to undo this filter. There will be 4 10mm bolts, one there and 2 there. Now when you undo this, there is an O-ring on this end. Just undo the bolt and then drop it, but you will have oil come out of that pickup hole and a little bit from here where the O-ring is too, so just have your bucket ready. Alright, so that's the filter out the way. Obviously you just double check and make sure your wiring all looks good. And if you look on this side, that is your main pressure regulator or your boost valve for it. If you know what you're doing, you can adjust that to increase your line pressure, but only do it if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing and you just want to do a service, don't go any further with this part, and we'll go ahead and clean up the pan and get the new filter ready. Like all autos, they will have magnets inside the pan. These ones have four little ones. Grab all of them, clean them up dry, put them aside, so then when we clean up the pan and everything's all fresh, then we can put them back in. But you can see the amount. There is a little bit there, but I would not be concerned. That is a normal amount of debris build up. Right, that is the pan and the magnets clean, nice and dry. That is our new pan gasket and our new internal filter with the new O-ring to go into the valve body. And we will be running Motil's multi-ATF full synthetic fluid for the transmission. Just helps keep those temps down and keeps everything nice and clean and lubricated inside. So get a little bit of either transmission oil or a bit of rubber grease, put on this O-ring and sit that into the valve body and then bolt that in, and then go ahead and bolt the pan up with the new gasket. And also, this was the sample of the old transmission fluid. In the right light you can see just a small tinge of the colour, but overall you can see it is quite black. So I'll also show you what the new fluid is going to look like and what it should look like. And that is the fresh fluid. Clearly you don't need the right lighting to see that colour, but that is cherry red, nice and vibrant, and will be good for the auto. And being Motil stuff, it generally has a few more additives in it to help with keeping temperatures down and keeping the internals lubricated and clean. In terms of longevity, I use Motil in all my own cars as well. It obviously is that little bit more expensive over the normal stuff that meets the factory specifications, but I'm always a huge advocate of preventative maintenance because it is always cheaper than repairs. So I personally like to put better fluid in my own cars that not only meet factory specifications but exceed them as well. So once the pan is back up and all the bolts are nice and tight and your drain plug is tight, take your check plug out of the pan and start pumping fluid into the fill port that you decided until it drips out of this while the engine is off. And also, when you do this, make sure you have a bucket to catch the fluid once it starts dripping out of the check plug. I generally use a clean bucket because then the excess oil that I catch from this, especially with this more expensive fluid, I can put it back into one of these bottles so I don't waste any of it. Right, now that it is dripping out of the check plug, so now we'll go up and we'll start the engine and let it idle in park. And then we will need to continue filling it until it starts dripping out of this check plug again. Right, so the engine is idling. And it is now no longer dripping out of the check plug, so let's continue to fill this transmission. Until it starts dripping out of that check plug. Right, so we are now idling and it is just dripping out of that check port now. Now what you're supposed to do is go put the check plug in, go up in the car and shift between the gates, between like park, reverse, all the way down to first gear and then back and forth about 5 times. So then you get oil going through every passage in the valve body and to every clutch pack. And then you need to come under here and re-top it up. What I have always done is, now that it's dripping, put your plug back in and now pump 1 extra litre in. So you can see my fluid left is at 3 litres, so I'm going to pump it until there's 2 left in the bottle, and that will be enough to compensate for the oil that it's going to be needed to shift through the gates and save me getting back under here to recheck it. Alright, now retighten your check plug, make sure you put your fill point plug back in it and tighten that up, clean everything nice and dry, and then you're all good to go. And then, like all cars, when you have just done a transmission service, you want to obviously make sure that drive and reverse engages nice. And then what you want to do is come to a complete stop and start with light throttle and make sure that all the gear changes still feel nice and smooth. You don't want to see this needle jump up between gear changes. That means that there's a small flare, which means that your clutches will prematurely get worn out. And then obviously you want to check it under a bit of heavier throttle as well to make sure that there's no flaring between gear changes and that everything is still operating as per normal. And obviously if everything is operating correctly still when it's cold and when it's hot, and what you want to do is you want to go back home and just poke your head underneath and make sure that it's still all dry and that there are no leaks under the car from anything you've touched. And if everything's all dry and everything's all good, you have just successfully done a transmission service on your 100 series Landcruiser. So if you have a Landcruiser 100 series with the 5-speed auto and you wanted to service it, now you know what you're in for and how to do it. Not that hard. So I hope that that has helped you to learn how to maintain your auto in your 100 series. Obviously, if you're not game enough, let me know. I'm more than happy to do it. But yeah, just wanted to come in and show you. So I've got another Landcruiser today to work on. I've got a 200 series now that I'm doing a major service on the engine side of things. But wanted to quickly show you about the auto that is in the 100 series. So yeah, hopefully that helped you out. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.